This is Dr. David Rich Soul. I recently met with Will Ferris, a performance and mindfulness coach who graduated from Pacific College's Health and Human Performance Health Coaching Program. During our conversation, Will shared his insights on becoming a health coach, the benefits of coaching, and his unique coaching style incorporating mindfulness practice, guided meditation, and spontaneous intelligent tactics to improve intuition and client empowerment. Will, who competes professionally as a 3-on-3 basketball player, has also developed a mental skills program for youth sports teams, is the host of the Flow Station podcast, and currently co-authoring a health and wellness book. When we started our conversation, I asked Will to tell us how he got into coaching and why.
When I was in 5th grade, I was scouting players to make a basketball team at recess. And I was bringing a clipboard, drawing it up, running plays. So I always felt like this deep connection to guiding or leading or bringing people together. And I didn't necessarily think I wanted to pigeonhole myself just to basketball. When I got into the health coaching program, it was whoa, this is this new world that I can explore to coach, but in a different fashion, not necessarily just through sport. What I loved about coaching that was different than other professions, I felt like there was such an empowering factor to it, where the questions mattered more than the answer, and the curiosity for that individual, which is still something I have to check myself and work on every single day, because it's so natural for us to want to, hey, here's what you can do. Here's how you can fix yourself. Here's that, that nature I can see is definitely comes from a level of care, but it's a kind of misunderstanding, I think, into how to empower an individual to make lasting changes. And so that's what I think I love about coaching. Is it's a very unregulated field in a lot of ways, but it's one that takes a lot of skill and presence. That's what I enjoy about it. It often gets confusing. It becomes a challenge when working with people and truly asking these questions. What do you want? What do you need from me? And making sure that I'm constantly never stepping over that boundary. And I've seen just kind of that philosophy and focus on empowerment trickle down to how I coach in other fields and just interact with even friends. It's a beautiful thing to want to help someone, but there's ways in which that can disempower them or maybe not help them in the long run. And so I think it's just a beautiful practice of checking my own reactions, checking my own thoughts, and elevating myself to a place where I can hold space for somebody to be in their own unique journey and experience. And so that's why I love coaching. And I think the health coaching program really having the guidance of the teachers and having people watch and even watch the recordings of the sessions changed everything, because it was hey, I see you going into expert mind here. I see you doing this. And so is it that feedback that I really needed now that I'm on my own to kind of check my own self. Oh man, that session, you were a little bit too antsy or urgent to try and give the answer versus stepping back and trusting the experience in that moment and that present experience with that client. I feel like with all the studies that I'd done, and especially in our program, we talked so much about the value in mindfulness and the value in heart coherence and getting into the body, getting into the breath. And I was noticing with clients and just in myself as well, when I was being coached, that if I wasn't in a grounded space, a lot of what I would bring up in the session was just noise that didn't need to be expressed in the session. And I was almost limiting the value that I could get or give. And so I started to consider that, okay, what if I started to teach a couple of these mindfulness tactics or work with that with the client, and then see where they truly want to go, not the reactive stress that they're feeling in that day. And so what I started to develop was kind of a unique style where I would sometimes do the whole coaching session with eyes closed and guide a meditation or breath work or just a way to get deeper into the body, usually visualizing some gratitude in the heart space. And what I really wanted to get people to is this understanding that we don't have to live or think and decide everything through our analytical mind. And so for me to say that, I'm okay, well, if I'm guiding the whole session from that space, we're not going to get to that point. And so I started to try it, and it ended up getting some really cool results where I would guide them to their heart space or their stomach. And I would say, okay, answer this question with the first thought from that space. And we were really getting somewhere because it was those deeper beliefs or thoughts that they wanted to express that are hard to touch when we're stuck in the stressful mind. The mindfulness coaching is something that I've brought to a lot of kids as well, because I just feel like that changed my life in a lot of ways. And it gives a space to say, hey, I don't have to identify with my thoughts as much. And I think once that space is there, there's a lot more bandwidth for change.
So really what I'm hearing is that coaching really helps to empower the person that you're coaching to really find the internal solutions that are already there. So instead of you being the expert, if you will, giving them the advice, you're really helping the person to really have their own expertise come out.
Yeah, 100%. And, I've dabbled with both because, oftentimes people are confused of what I do. What do I offer? What am I actually there to bring? And the way that I love how you described it, it's like they have what they need within. They truly do. And it's just getting back to this expressive mode of intuition. And I think that's what, when I leave a session and I'm just a neutral mind, somebody that's giving them a space to not be judged, to truly be heard, I'm like, I'm already doing my job. I'm already giving them a space to get into that intuitive space. And I love to tell this story of a kid that I babysat. And I was like, hey, how do you express anger? And it was like, without a moment's notice, bah! And I just started laughing because I was like, wow, as kids, we have that gift. And then as we get older, we stop trusting ourselves. We stop trusting ourselves. We stop trusting ourselves. And so having all the background and then the other practices, I feel like I've tailored my practice now to have a little bit of both. Is like the initial process. Hey, here are some really helpful tools that can bring some more self-awareness. But during the session itself, taking a step back and truly seeing, okay, where are they at? Because they're not, in my experience, they may not need what I need. And so it is a delicate process and one that I'm still constantly refining and constantly growing in. And I think that's why I've stayed on this path, as I'm seeing so much growth in myself as well, and how I consider other people's needs and other people's states of being and consciousness and how they can evolve moving forward. Curiosity, I think, eliminates a lot of stagnation or limiting beliefs or victim consciousness. I think that's a lot of where I try to assist people. And I've had experience in that with myself, is that becomes more of a deterrent to healing than anything else. And so that level of curiosity, getting people to a level of questioning their beliefs or being skeptical about their thoughts, is where I love to take it, because I truly believe that our perspective is our greatest healer. And so that curiosity allows for that infinite possibility lens to, okay, there may be another option to look at this. One of my favorite teachers, he's like ancient Taoist priest, and his quote was, we can't heal from the same state of consciousness that made us sick. And so that fundamentally means that we must change ourselves and not just mask the symptoms and deal with those minute things. And so I am forever curious about that experience. And so I think when I'm able to be curious about my client, they're able to be a little bit more curious about their experience as well. Curiosity plays a huge role into all this, because if we come in with that fixed mindset, this is how it needs to be, this is how it must be, that's easier. It's safer. It's more controlled. And I think that's why, again, I love this practice, is because I come in, of course, I would love to just say, hey, you need to do this, 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 and boom, you're off. Like that's pretty easy, And so being able to stay curious, I think there's that gift. You see those ahas, and sometimes I'll have clients that'll come back, I'll be like, man, I feel like I'm not giving them much. Like, am I doing enough? All those thoughts start to come in, and they'll come back and be like, dude, I've changed so much in 4 weeks. I can't even believe it. I'm just like, okay, well, again, it's not me doing it. It's this person doing it. And so I think that curiosity becomes a superpower in a lot of ways. Being a little bit younger and taking kind of a different path into kind of the business world, I've been really lucky with some of the mentors that I've had at a really young age. And so they've gotten me on this path towards a self-reflective journey, a more mindful journey. And within that, I've always just had this deep desire to change the mold of athletics, but also youth development. I had a gift with kids, but with people coaching, I always loved to coach. That was always a dream of mine. And so when I got to college, I was in a pretty basic major, probably communication studies, and was studying just mindfulness and different practices to know myself pretty much all day. I had an online master's program for my final year in playing basketball in college, and just took all the time I could to soak up any different philosophy that I could, any different way of life that I could. And there's a deep feeling within that I was like, man, I gotta do something different. I don't want to go to just a typical 9 to 5. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just felt like, man, I'm so interested, so passionate in this stuff that I need to follow it. And so as I left school, one of my mentors, Dr. Bob Gregzanik, who I'm currently working on the book with, and he was in the health and human performance program as well, recommended me to take the 4 health coaching classes. And I was like, I'm not so sure. I don't know if I want to get back into school. And I'm so grateful that I did, because it gave me at least a structure or a platform to talk to people, to assist me to get to a point where I can actually feel comfortable taking clients, working with them. I guess I don't know how to even explain this often. I'm sure you can hear it's pretty difficult. I do so many different things. Currently traveling around, playing 3-on-3 basketball, writing a book, working with different clients from all age groups, and then also host a podcast myself. And so there's just so many things that I love to dabble in. And I just think that's kind of been my personality, is just kind of this journey and holistic approach to life, and seeing how it applies to myself. When I left college, I was working on a farm in Redmond, Washington. So a little bit up north from where I grew up in Bellevue. And my old high school basketball coach moved to this island off of Seattle. And so on top of farming, I would go drive out there on the weekends and train a bunch of the kids. One of the parents was on kind of the same bandwidth as me, as far as, man, what if we taught these mental skills when these kids are young, not when they're 25 and have all these thought patterns that are already built. And so we were going back and forth with this idea for so long. And finally, he took over the whole select program for youth basketball on the island. And he called me. He's like, "Hey, man, it's time to do it. Are you down to work with this 8th grade team as the mental skills coach?" And so initially, I'm in San Diego now. Initially, I was just going to do it remote via Zoom. And then he was like, "Hey, we actually have a house here you could stay in if you wanted to come over and just do it in person." I was like, "Man, yeah, let's do it." And so it was, again, another refining process, where initially I felt like I needed to come in and teach all these things and share all these mental tools. And then I slowly started to realize, again, man, I have to meet them where they're at. These kids are in 8th grade. A lot of the things that they're thinking about are not what I'm thinking about. And I don't want to project, because I've played at a high level in basketball, and the stresses and anxieties that come from that. I don't want to project any of those fears on them that they may not already be feeling. And so it was a humbling process, one where I saw the benefits, again, came from the more coaching mindset, where, hey, what do you guys think about this? Where are you guys at with this? How do you want to proceed with it? And what we started to see over time is that these kids were wanting to meditate on drives before games. They were wanting to connect deeper on the court. They were reaching out to me for Zoom calls versus the other way around. And so at the end of the year, I asked them, what was their biggest takeaway? A lot of them were, hey, confidence is what makes me good. How my mind is working is what makes me good. And so hopefully the seed was planted. They all took away vastly different things. And so I'm excited to see how those kids grow. And that's something that I'm going to continue to do each and every year with the island kids, and just working with the program, give them that mindfulness tool, but also just the coaching style of, hey, what goals and values do you hold and all of that. So it was a really cool experience. And I think, again, one that I learned more about myself than probably the kids learned. So it was really cool. When I got into the coaching, I wasn't sure what it would bring. And I was blessed in the program to have, 20 different coaches, different styles and different things that were coming. And again, I think what you get when you're looking for a coach is this input of self-reflection that you can't really wiggle out of. Because I feel like oftentimes we get these hits of like, man, I need to focus on this, or I need to do this. And in the session, it becomes right there, right now. How are you going to express the things that you need to express or deal with? And I think coaching does that in a way that empowers you moving forward, where I've resonated more to that, because I feel like when we're focusing on what we want to build moving forward, we're moving from that place of love rather than the fear of, going backwards or thinking about things again, going back. And so I think coaching offers a dynamic experience where, of course, there's tools and things that we can teach, but in the coaching process and feedback that I've gotten from different people that have seen therapists versus coaching is like, they love to move forward. They want to get out of the issue that they're experiencing. They want to empower themselves. And I think if we're muddling around in all these experiences that have already happened and patterns that are going to continue to happen unless the beliefs change to move forward, I think that's where the value in coaching is. And so when people are looking for coaches, it's I like to say it gets to like the umbrella of the issue. You're getting to the core beliefs and the values, and that trickles down and changes everything else with that. And so until someone is empowered enough to say it, though, through questions, I don't think it necessarily sticks. And that's what I love about coaching is it's this like almost chess match with the coach and the client of trying to ask the right questions without leading them into a hole, but like guiding them down the path that they want to choose. And so that's why I think coaching is valuable to people and anybody that's looking for a coach. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have an issue or you need to perform. I think a misconception is it's for sports or it's for weight loss or it's for this. It can be truly just a mindset shift. It could be coaching for anything in any field. And so I think it's just this dynamic process that people will get different results, maybe things that they didn't even expect. And the hits can maybe come 5 months later. Oh gosh, I remember I was asked that question. And that to me, when you remember the question, that's that curiosity again. It's like, oh, I'm constantly learning, constantly growing. And so that's what I've seen from coaching is it offers that lens to kind of push people forward. The coaching program gave me enough tools to keep a business going and, have the amount of tools I felt that I needed to sufficiently guide people in a session.
Tell us more about the book that you're currently writing.
We've had this idea for about 3 years now. Through a lot of refinement, it's morphed. And I think the initial premise was, it's called Free Health. And the initial premise was things that you can do each day that are free, that can maintain your level of health. And as it has molded, it's kind of gone into this like tier structure of at the bottom foundation is the empowerment stuff. So a lot of the consciousness stuff that I was expressing, the way that you think about healing, the way that you get your mindset into that space is going to take precedent before any of the modalities or the actions that you take. And that's kind of the bottom tier. So that's the first few chapters. And then it goes to the fundamentals. So the breathing, the eating, sleep, and all these things that are so foundational to our health that we may overlook because we may not see our digestion. We may not see our breath. We may not see some of these huge pillars of health that could be just the very core of what we need. And I think as we start to build throughout the book, it gets up to like self-transcendence, the flow state, and all these things that people want to experience more. And it's sort of like a step-by-step guide in ways in which they can maintain their health in order to set themselves up for that. So it's been a really humbling experience again, one that has changed me in a lot of ways, because I see how often it's easy to project my experience instead of keeping it neutral and keeping it for the reader's discernment. Yeah, I'm excited. It'll be out this year.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for doing that. What should somebody who's considering becoming a coach know at this point?
A big holdback for me when I was getting into coaching, and especially when I'm working with maybe even older people or younger kids or anybody, is feeling like, well, I don't have it all figured out. So why am I giving advice or coaching people, or like, why am I telling these people what to do? Like, I got a bunch of things I need to work on. I think that's always a constant loop that can take place in coaches' minds. And I think that's maybe what holds people back from trying to get into coaching, or, it's something that I think everyone experiences when they get into coaching. And I just want to say it's a skill like anything else. And no one needs to be perfect before they can coach. And that would probably that's kind of the biggest drawback that I've had in continuing this work is feeling like, okay, well, I still have a ton of stuff to do. I got a lot of things to figure out. I got a lot of things to build on. But the skill is still doesn't need you to be perfect. It just needs you to, be present, ask the questions that are coming to you, and let the client guide themselves in their journey. And so I think that's one that I'd want to share to anybody, because there is no place that you'll get to that'll make you ready to coach if you feel called to do it. And so I have this little intentions list that I read before I get on any call to kind of remind myself that is like, hey, I'm meeting this person where they're at, but I'm meeting myself where I'm at too. Like, I can't be the perfect coach all the time or to say all the right things, but I'm showing up as I am. People value that I'm here coaching them. I've done the work to gain the skills. Like, now I just have to trust it. And so I think that's for anyone considering coaching or looking for coaching, I think that's a good reminder for both sides, is that it's not someone that's going to fix you or save you or be the answer for you. It's just somebody along the path that can be present with you, asking questions that you may not be able to conceive in that moment. And then, as I've expressed, get ready to learn more about yourself than, other people. And that's kind of been a foundational piece to me, is like, I'm learning every single day when I'm doing this, and I'm constantly evolving my process to offer better service to people. And so it's never a one-track road, and when you're getting into coaching.
How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about coaching or get coaching themselves?
I have a website, willwellnesscoaching.com. My email's on there. There's like a contact form if anyone wants to reach out. I usually do a free 15-minute call as well, if people are curious about coaching or want to get into coaching, like just to hop on a phone call and chat about that. They're more than welcome to. And I love talking about it.
Awesome. Well, Will, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing about your work and about coaching. I wish you all the best, and good luck with finishing that book this year. I'm actually looking forward to reading it myself.
Yeah, I'll send you one for sure. Thank you for
Awesome.
having me, man. And I appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully we can talk again soon, or maybe I'll visit Chicago.
Sounds great. Awesome. Thanks, Will.
Awesome, man.
Take care.
Have a great one, David.
You too. Thanks for listening. To learn more about health coaching and the Health and Human Performance program at Pacific College of Health and Science, visit us online at pacificcollege.edu. Until next time, I wish you well.